Okay, continuing chapter 4. Epigenetics, how we mere mortals get to play God. If our genes don't seal our fate, and if they actually contain an enormous library of possibilities just waiting to be taken off the shelf and read, then what gives us access to those potentials? Potentials that could have a huge effect on our health and well-being. The men in the monastery study surely gained such access, but how did they do it? The answer lies in a relatively new field of study called epigenetics. The word epigenetics literally means above the gene. It refers to the control of genes not from within the DNA itself, but from messages coming from outside the cell. In other words, from the environment. These signals cause a methyl group, one carbon atom attached to 3 hydrogen atoms, to attach to a specific spot on a gene. In this process, called DNA methylation, is one of the main processes that turns the gene off or on. Two other processes, covalent histone modification and non-coding RNA, also turn genes on and off, but the details of those processes are more than we need for this discussion. Epigenetics teaches that we, indeed, are not doomed by our genes, and that a change in human consciousness can produce physical changes, both in structure and function, in the human body. We can modify our genetic destiny by turning on the genes we want and turning off the ones we don't want through working with the various factors in the environment that program our genes. Some of those signals come from within the body, such as feelings and thoughts, while others come from the body's response to the external environment, such as pollution or sunlight. Epigenetics studies all of these external signals that tell the cell what to do and when to do it, looking at both the sources that activate or turn on gene expression, upregulating, and those that suppress or turn off gene expression, downregulating, as well as the dynamics of energy that adjust the process of cellular function on a moment-to-moment basis. Epigenetics suggests that even though our DNA code never changes, thousands of combinations, sequences, and pattern variations in a single gene are possible, just as thousands of combinations, sequences, and patterns of neural networks are possible in the brain. Looking at the entire human genome, so many millions of possible epigenetic variations exist that scientists find their heads spinning just thinking about it. The Human Epigenome Project, begun in 2003 as the Human Genome Project drew to a close, is underway in Europe. And some researchers have said that when it's completed, it will make the Human Genome Project look like homework that 15th century kids did with an abacus. In other words, they are realizing our true unlimited potential. And see, all of this has been known. We are living out a narration. It is the sooner that me and you realize our true unlimited potential and quit relying on these experts to tell us what we are, and we realize for ourselves what we are, that's where our real power comes from. Because they've had us in a box our whole lives for generations and generations and generations. Going back to the blueprint model, and now they're just now saying, oh, wait a minute, maybe you guys aren't, determined by your genes. Maybe there are, outside factors that determine that. Maybe there are things that we can do about things. It's ridiculous, guys. You need to quit listening to these stupid fucking experts. Going back to the blueprint model, we can change the color of what we build, the types of materials we use, the scale of the construction, even the positioning of the structure, making an almost infinite number of variations, all without ever changing the actual blueprint. A great example of epigenetics at work involves identical twins who share exactly the same DNA. If we embrace the idea of genetic predeterminism, the idea that all diseases are genetic, then identical twins should have exactly the same gene expression. However, they don't always manifest the same illnesses in the same way, and sometimes one will manifest a genetic disease that the other doesn't manifest at all. Twins can have the same genes but differing outcomes. A Spanish study illustrates this perfectly. Researchers at the Cancer Epigenetics Laboratory at the Spanish National Cancer Center in Madrid studied 4 pairs of identical twins ranging in age from 3 to 74. They found that younger twins who had similar lifestyles and spent more years together had similar epigenetic patterns, while older twins, in particular those with dissimilar lifestyles who spent fewer years together, had very different epigenetic patterns. For example, researchers found 4 times as many differentially expressed genes between one pair of 50-year-old twins as they did between a pair of 3-year-old twins. The twins were born with exactly the same DNA, but those with different lifestyles and different lives ended up expressing their genes very differently, especially as time went on. To use another analogy, the older twin pairs were like exact copies of the same model of a computer. The computers came loaded with some similar starter software, but as time went on, each downloaded very different additional software programs. The computer, the DNA, stays the same, but depending on what software a person has downloaded, the epigenetic variations, what the computer does and the way it operates can be quite different. So when we think our thoughts and feel our feelings, our bodies respond in a complex formula of biological shifts and alterations, and each experience pushes the buttons of our real genetic changes within our cells. I mean, what more proof do you need that you're in control of your shit? It's the choices you make, guys. The speed of these changes can be truly remarkable. In just 3 months, a group of 31 men with low-risk prostate cancer were able to upregulate 48 genes, mostly dealing with tumor suppression, and downregulate 453 genes, mostly dealing with tumor promotion, by following an intensive nutrition and lifestyle regimen. Just by changing their damn eating and their lifestyle, they were able to downregulate 453 genes of tumor promotion and upregulate 48 genes dealing with tumor suppression. We control it all. You don't need a pill. You don't need an expert. You don't need a doctor. You don't need a teacher. You don't need a lawyer. You don't need a government. You don't need an authority. You don't need a guru. You don't need a preacher. You don't need a savior. You are all of those, and you need to act as such. The men enrolled in a study by Dean Ornish, MD, at the University of California at San Francisco, lost weight and reduced their abdominal obesity, their blood pressure, and lipid profile over the course of the study. Ornish noted, "It is not really so much about risk factor reduction or preventing something bad from happening. These changes can occur so quickly you don't have to wait years to see the benefits. It's instantaneous." Even more impressive are the number of epigenetic changes made over a 6-month period in a Swedish study of 23 slightly overweight, healthy men who went from being relatively sedentary to attending spinning and aerobics classes an average of just under twice per week. Researchers at Lund University discovered that the men had epigenetically altered 7,000 genes, almost 30% of all the genes in the entire human genome. These epigenetic variations may even be inherited by our children and then passed on to our grandchildren. The first researcher to show this was Michael Skinner, PhD, who was director of the Center for Reproductive Biology at Washington State University. In 2005, Skinner led a study that exposed pregnant rats to pesticides. The male pups of the exposed mother rats had higher rates of infertility and decreased sperm production, with epigenetic changes in 2 genes. These changes were also present in about 90% of the males in each of the 4 generations that followed, even though none of these other rats were exposed to any pesticides. So that's like the sins of the father, right? We carry on the sins of the father, is because, we are responsible. And if we're bringing other lives into this world, we're responsible for those lives. So our actions, the way we behave, our thoughts, our feelings, what we pass down to these children goes into them. So it is our responsibility to break this cycle of slavery, our responsibility to heal ourselves, save ourselves, because by doing so, then we pass that down to our children. If we just want to remain a slave, guess what? Our children are most likely going to remain slaves. Of course, they don't have to, it's their choice, but they're most likely going to, because it's already in their gene. They're already programmed for it because of your dumbass. Our experiences from our external environment are only part of the story, however. As we've been learning, how we assign meaning to those experiences include a barrage of physical, mental, emotional, and chemical responses that also activate genes. How we perceive and interpret the data we receive from our senses as factual information, whether that information is actually true or not, and the meaning we give it produce significant biological changes on a genetic level. Thus, our genes interact with our conscious awareness in complex relationships. We could say that meaning is continually affecting the neural structures that influence who we are on the microscopic level, which then influences who we are on the macroscopic level. The study of epigenetics also raises the question, what if nothing is changing in your external environment? What if you do the same things with the same people at exactly the same time every day? Things leading to the same experiences that produce the same emotions that signal the same genes in the same way. We could say that as long as you perceive your life through the lens of the past and react to the conditions with the same neural pattern and from the same level of mind, you're headed toward very specific, predetermined genetic destiny. You're writing your own story. In addition, what you believe about yourself, your life, and the choices you make as a result of those beliefs also keeps sending the same messages to the same genes. Only when the cell is ignited in a new way by new information can it create thousands of variations of the same gene to rewrite a new expression of proteins, which changes your body. You may not be able to control all the elements in your outer world, but you can manage many aspects of your inner world. Your beliefs, your perceptions, and how you interact with your external environment have an influence on your internal environment, which is still the external environment of the cell. This means that you, not your pre-programmed biology, hold the keys to your genetic destiny. It's just a matter of finding the right key that fits into the right lock to unleash your potential. So why not see your genes for what they really are? Providers of possibility, resources of unlimited potential, a code system of personal commands. In truth, they're nothing short of tools for transformation, which literally means changing form. Stress keeps us living in survival mode. Stress is one of the biggest causes of epigenetic change because it knocks your body out of balance. It comes in three forms: physical stress, trauma; chemical stress, toxins; and emotional stress, fear, worry, being overwhelmed, and so on. Each type can set off more than 1,400 chemical reactions and produce more than 30 hormones and neurotransmitters. When that chemical cascade of stress hormones is triggered, your mind influences your body and vice versa through the autonomic nervous system, and you experience the ultimate mind-body connection. Ironically, feeling stress was designed to be adaptive. All organisms in nature, including humans, are programmed to deal with short-term stress so that they'll have the resources they need for emergency situations. When you sense a threat in your external environment, the fight or flight response in your sympathetic nervous system, a subsystem of your autonomic nervous system, is activated, and your heart rate and blood pressure increase, your muscles tense, and hormones like adrenaline and cortisol shoot through your body to prepare you to either flee or face your foe in battle. If you're being chased by a pack of wild, hungry wolves or a party of violent warriors and you outrun them, your body will return to homeostasis, its normal balanced state, soon after you reach safety. That's the way our bodies were designed to operate when we're living in survival mode. The body is out of balance, but only for a short period of time until the danger passes. At least that's how it was meant to be. Yeah, but see, we're in constant stress all day long. Your alarm clock goes off in the morning, you hit the button, you pass out again, the alarm clock goes out, you realize, oh shit, I'm late. Your heart's already racing. The damn alarm clock will fucking make you stressed out anyways. So your heart's racing from the first time you passed out because you're so worn out, your body's begging for rest, your mind's begging for sleep. You get up, you run, you're like, oh my God, I'm stressed. I got to get to work. You're shoving food down your face. Now most of your energy is going to digestion, but at the same time, you need that energy because you're in fight or flight. So you need that energy to get to work, hurry up, you're racing, you're going in traffic, you're freaking out. You get to work, then your boss is pissed, you're behind on your work, you're fucking rushing all day. Guys, and then you do the same thing every day. It never ends. Same fucking thing, all day, every fucking day. And our bodies were never meant to be under this kind of stress. We live in completely toxic, unnatural, non-conducive environments to our biological systems. The same thing happens in our modern world, although the setting is usually a little different. If someone cuts you off when you're driving on the highway, you might be momentarily frightened, but once you realize that you're okay and you let go of the fear of having an accident, your body returns to normal, unless that was only one of countless stressful situations you stumbled into that day. If you're like most people, a string of nerve-wracking incidents keeps you in fight or flight response and out of homeostasis, a large part of your day. Maybe the car cutting you off is the only actual life-threatening situation you encounter all day, but the traffic on the way to work, the pressure of preparing for a big presentation, the argument you had with your spouse, the credit card bill that came in the mail, the crashing of your computer hard drive, and the new gray hair you noticed in the mirror keep the stress hormones circulating in your body on a near constant basis. Guys, we age. These are the reasons why we age so quickly. These are the reasons why we are so diseased. These are the reasons why we live in such sick environments. It's all due to this stress. It's all due to our bodies and our minds being completely stressed, not able to activate, our minds being entrapped and in a box and not being able to recognize their unlimited potential and activate our 98.5% of our DNA that lays latent in our body, waiting for our mind and thoughts and emotions to trigger the new DNA. It just doesn't happen because we just keep ourselves locked in this stressful hamster wheel of enslavement. Between remembering stressful experiences from the past and anticipating stressful situations coming up in your future, all these repetitive short-term stresses blur together into long-term stress. Welcome to the 21st century version of living in survival mode. And it's not the 21st century. Look, your whole history is a lie. We aren't just now learning this. They've known this is how the Matrix keeps us, their overlay on us. This is how they keep control over us. They've known this forever. We are living out a narrative. All this information is just coming out as they want it to come out to feed into the system, the energy into the system. That's all it's for. You know, they've known this. They keep us enslaved by us not knowing this and programming us to think that we're powerless and disempowering us, when what we need to do is just reclaim our authority and worship ourselves and realize that we're unlimited and remember how to unlock that potential. In fight or flight mode, life-sustaining energy is mobilized so that the body can either run or fight. But when there isn't a return to homeostasis because you keep perceiving a threat, vital energy is lost in the system. You have less energy in your internal environment for cell growth and repair, long-term building projects on a cellular level, and healing when that energy is being channeled elsewhere. The cells shut down. They no longer communicate with one another and they become selfish. It's not time for routine maintenance, let alone for making improvements. It's time for defense. It's just like being in stress is like the same thing as when you eat. As soon as you eat something, your body goes into digestion. Up to 70% of your energy goes to digestion. Now imagine so when you're in stress, all your body can't. It's the same thing. Your body is trying to survive, so it's not focusing on healing. It's not focusing on normal functioning. It's in a fight or flight mode. It's every man for himself. So now imagine when you are when you're eating, digesting, and you're in a stressful environment all fucking day and you're eating all day. Your body, guys, this is why we are racked. We are completely racked with disease and pain and sickness and despair and sorrow. And it's very, very clear to understand. It's every cell for itself, so the collective community of cells working together becomes fractured. The immune and endocrine systems, among others, become weakened as genes in those related cells are compromised when informational signals from outside the cells are turned off. It's like living in a country where 98% of the resources go toward defense and nothing is left for schools, libraries, road building and repair, communication systems, growing of food, and so on. Roads develop potholes that aren't fixed, schools suffer budget cuts, so students wind up learning less, social welfare programs that took care of the poor and the elderly have to close down, and there's not enough food to feed the masses. Not surprisingly, then, long-term stress has been linked to anxiety, depression, digestive problems, memory loss, insomnia, hypertension, heart disease, strokes, cancers, ulcers, rheumatoid arthritis, colds, flu, aging acceleration, allergies, body pain, chronic fatigue, infertility, impotence, asthma, hormonal issues, skin rashes, hair loss, muscle spasms, and diabetes, to name just a few conditions. All of which, by the way, are the result of epigenetic changes. We are sick because we live in sick environments, sick social hierarchies, and we try to keep up with the Joneses, and we're insane. We are insane. We expect something, we expect to get better, we expect things are going to get better, and we just keep on poisoning ourselves with the food we intake and poisoning ourselves with all the stress we're under. No organism in nature is designed to withstand the effects of long-term stress. Several studies give strong evidence to show how epigenetic instructions for healing shut down during emergencies. For example, researchers at the Ohio State University Medical Center found that more than 170 genes were affected by stress, with 100 of them shutting off completely, including many that directly make proteins to facilitate the proper type of wound healing. The researchers reported that wounds of stressed patients took 40% longer to heal, and that stress tilted the genomic balance towards genes that were encoding proteins responsible for cell cycle arrest, death, and inflammation. Another study examining the genes of 100 citizens of Detroit zeroed in on 23 subjects who were suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. These people had 6 to 7 times more epigenetic variations, most of which involved compromising the immune system. Researchers at the UCLA AIDS Institute found that not only did HIV spread faster in patients who were the most stressed, but also the higher a patient's stress level, the less he or she responded to the antiretroviral drugs. The drugs worked 4 times better for those patients who were relatively calm compared to those whose blood pressure, skin moisture, and resting heart rate indicated they were feeling stressed the most. Based on these findings, researchers concluded that the nervous system has a direct effect on viral replication. It's these toxic environments, it's these stressful environments, these man-made environments. It's this matrix that's holding us down, guys. It's this matrix that's killing us. Although the fight or flight response was originally highly adaptive because it kept early humans alive, it's now clear that the longer that survival system is constantly activated, the longer your body shunts its resources for creating optimal health, so the system becomes maladaptive. Because they have us stuck in it, that is, our systems are shutting down. The legacy of negative emotions. As we keep making stress hormones, we create a host of highly addictive negative emotions, including anger, hostility, aggression, competition, hatred, frustration, fear, anxiety, jealousy, insecurity, guilt, shame, sadness, depression, hopelessness, and powerlessness, just to name a few. When we focus on thoughts about bitter past memories or imagine dreadful futures to the exclusion of everything else, we prevent the body from regaining homeostasis. In truth, we're capable of turning on the stress response by thought alone. If we turn it on and then can't turn it off, we're surely headed for some type of illness or disease, be it a cold or cancer, as more and more genes get downregulated in a domino effect until we eventually arrive at our genetic destiny. For example, if we can anticipate a possible known future scenario and then focus on that thought to the exclusion of everything else, even for just one moment, the body will physiologically begin to change in order to prepare itself for that future event. The body is now living in that known future in the present moment. As a consequence of this phenomenon, the conditioning process begins to activate the autonomic nervous system, and it creates the corresponding stress chemicals automatically. This is how the mind-body connection can work against us. When this happens, we are demonstrating the 3 elements of the placebo effect in perfect symmetry. First, we start to condition the body to the rush of adrenal chemistry in order to feel a boost of energy. If we can associate a person, thing, or experience at a particular time and place in our reality with that rush of chemistry within us, we'll begin to condition the body to turn on the response just by thinking about that stimulus. In time, we'll be able to simply condition the body to be put in mind of that emotionally aroused state by thought alone. The thought of a potential experience with someone and something at some time and some place. If we can expect the future outcome based on the past experience, then the expectation of the event, when we emotionally embrace it, will change the body's physiology. And if we assign meaning to the behaviors and experiences we're putting our conscious intention behind, the outcomes that our bodies will change or not change equal to what we think we know about our reality and ourselves. We are playing ourselves. We are keeping ourselves entrapped. But whether or not you believe that the stress in your life is justified or valid, the effect of that stress on the body is never advantageous or health enhancing. Again, whether or not you believe that the stress in your life is justified or valid, you might be stressed. It is valid. We aren't supposed to live like this. So what do we have to do? This is the answer. We have to cut these things out. We have to quit putting the value in possessions. We have to quit putting the value in our entertainment, in our distractions. We have to quit putting the value in our jobs. We have to quit putting the value in other people. We have to quit putting the value in experts. We have to quit putting the value in religion. We have to quit putting the value in politics. Because if we don't, we're giving away all of our value. That's what we're doing. We are literally martyrs, giving ourselves away for something else, and to our own detriment. Our own health and well-being is being sacrificed. We're fueling something else with ourselves intentionally. Your body believes that it is being chased. But whether or not you believe that the stress in your life is justified or valid, the effect of that stress on the body is never advantageous or health enhancing. So thinking that you just need to keep your job because you got to pay your bills and you got to keep a roof over your head and you got to keep food in the fridge and you got to keep the lights on and you got to keep your entertainment system going and you got to keep all your distractions and you got to pay for all your coffees and your fast food and all your chemicals that you ingest and your yoga classes and all this shit, you're keeping yourself in the same thing. You're just justifying your abuse. You're justifying your enslavement, and nothing's going to change because you keep justifying it. And if you're justifying it, you're never going to have any gumption to change. Your body believes that it is being chased by a lion. It is standing perched on a perilous cliff or is fighting off a pack of angry cannibals. Here are a few examples from scientific studies demonstrating the effects of stress on the body. Researchers at the Ohio State University College of Medicine confirmed that stressful emotions trigger hormonal and genetic responses. By measuring how stress affects the speed of healing minor skin wounds, a significant marker of gene activation. A group of 42 married couples were given small suction blisters, and then their level of 3 proteins commonly expressed in wound healing was monitored for a total of 3 weeks. The couples were asked to have a neutral discussion for half an hour as a baseline and then later to talk about a previous marital argument. The researchers found that after the couples discussed a previous disagreement, their level of healing-linked proteins was mildly suppressed, showing that the genes were downregulated. The suppression rose to an even greater degree, about 40%, in couples whose discussion ballooned into a significant conflict, peppered with sarcastic comments, criticism, and put-downs. Research also supports the reverse effect, that reducing stress with positive emotions triggers epigenetic changes that improve health. 2 key studies by researchers at the Benson Henry Institute for Mind-Body Medicine at Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston looked at the effects of meditation, which is known for eliciting peaceful and even blissful states, on gene expression. In the first study, conducted in 2008, 20 volunteers received 8 weeks of training in various mind-body practices, including several types of meditation, yoga, and repetitive prayer, known to induce the relaxation response, a physiological state of deep rest. The researchers also followed 19 long-term daily practitioners of the same techniques. At the end of the study period, the novices showed a change in 1,561 genes, 874 upregulated for health, and 687 downregulated for stress, as well as reduced blood pressure and reduced heart and respiration rates, while the experienced practitioners expressed 2,209 new genes. Most of the genetic changes involved improving the body's response to chronic psychological stress. The second study, conducted in 2013, found that eliciting the relaxation response produces changes in gene expression after just 1 session of meditation among both novices and experienced practitioners alike, with the long-term practitioners, not surprisingly, deriving more benefit. Genes that were upregulated included those involved in immune function, function, energy metabolism, insulin secretion, while genes that were downregulated included those linked to inflammation and stress. Studies like these underscore just how quickly it's possible to change your own genes. That's why the placebo response can produce physical changes in a matter of moments. In my workshops around the world, my colleagues and I have witnessed significant and immediate changes in our participants' health after only one session of meditation. They transformed themselves and activated new genes in new ways by thoughts alone. You'll be introduced to some of them soon. When we're living in survival mode with our stress response turned on all the time, we can really focus on only three things: our physical bodies, am I okay? The environment, where is it safe? And time, how long will this threat be hanging over me? Constantly focusing on these three things makes us less spiritual, less aware, and less mindful, because it trains us to become more self-absorbed and more focused on our bodies, as well as on other material things, such as what we own, where we live, how much money we have, and so on, in addition to all of the problems we experience in our external world. Exactly, and that is the reason why we cannot focus. We're only focused on our physical bodies, the environment, and time. So by focusing on those things, we are less spiritual, we are less aware. We can't, because we're looking for that next hit. We're looking for that next chemical hit. We're looking for that next dopamine hit. Whatever chemical release, serotonin, dopamine, whatever the fucking chemical that we are used to feeding inside of our bodies, that's what we're focused on. This focus also trains us to obsess about time, to constantly brace ourselves for the worst case future scenarios based on our traumatic past experiences, because there's never enough time and everything always takes too much time. Living by the cocktail of stress hormones for extended periods of time will cause you, as well as everyone in your life, to desperately try to control situations, force outcomes, perceive problems, the stressors as getting worse, overanalyze, and predict familiar outcomes. In fact, stress makes us obsessive, compulsive, and somewhat neurotic. So we could say that just as stress hormones cause the cells of the body to become selfish to ensure that we survive, they endorse our ego to become more selfish too, and we become materialists, defining reality with our senses. We end up feeling separate from any new possibilities, because when we never leave that state of chronic emergency, that me first mentality that pervades all our thinking strengthens and endures, leading us to become self-indulgent, self-serving, and self-important. Ultimately, the self becomes defined as a body living in the environment and in time. As you have just read and now more fully understand, the reality is that you do indeed have some degree of control over your own genetic engineering by way of your thoughts, choices, behaviors, experiences, and emotions. Like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, who had the power she sought all along but didn't know it, you also possess a power that you may not have previously realized was yours. The keys that can set you free of being chained to the limitations of your own genetic expression. Man, that's powerful.